that's why we do it, isn't it? That's why we do this, because we have got different views. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't, but we're very polite.
Yes, we're always polite. Always polite.
Hello, welcome back to Boys on Film, where we cast our critical eyes over the latest movies and invite you to join us as we talk about Donna. I am your host, Phil Marriott, and joining me is my co-host, Sean Vickers.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I was going to do like an intro, a bit like when Trinity the Tuck did Satan on All Star 7.
Go on, do it.
Hey, girls.
So we have got a review of a documentary called Donna today. If you are new here, by the way, and you want to subscribe, Sean, tell everyone why they should subscribe to our content on this channel.
It's fun. It's informative.
Yeah.
It's irreverent. We share some of our wisdom. And wisdom. And you get to hear from you and I, just rabbiting on about London life.
Yeah, we're quite friendly, aren't we?
You're dead friendly.
Yeah.
Really nice.
When we're not drunk.
Lie.
That's another story for another video, perhaps. So, an interesting story. It's about Donna Personna. It is Personna, isn't it? Because it's double N. Because I heard people in this documentary calling her Persona, Donna Persona. I suppose she has a persona.
She does know it's Donna Personna.
She is a personality.
She's a real character. She was in this group in the 60s called the Cockettes, who are actually quite famous. And I remember seeing a documentary about the Cockettes a long time ago with my co-host from Flop Joe Heaney. And so I was quite excited to watch this documentary about Donna. Yeah, the Cockettes were incredible and groundbreaking and really pushed boundaries. And so if you don't know about the Cockettes, not for now, but go and whack on the Google.
Yeah.
And have a read, because it's super interesting and very groundbreaking in our community.
So this is quite an intimate and candid portrayal of Donna. And I have to say, right from the start, that I adore her. She has the filthiest laugh ever. I think I've heard anybody laugh. And it's that whole kind of like, when she does it, it's like her mouth's wide open and she's got this really dirty, raspy laugh, which I love. And I just love her story. And also, we were talking about this coming back from, we've been out to King's Arms, because I was DJing there for Saturday All Sorts, and you were there. Thank you for coming down, because you were there for the last couple of hours. And we were talking about how she came across as someone who was not angry or bitter about anything in life. There's
no doubt that she will have had a tough time with things, being, a trans woman from the 60s, from being with the Cockettes in the 60s right through to present day, the things she has seen, the things she has experienced being in San Francisco, but the way she doesn't seem to carry that through the way she presented in this film. I loved her. I thought she was warm. I thought she was candid. I thought she had integrity and she was genuine. And yeah, I'm sure she has the war wounds like a lot of people in our community over those years, but she doesn't necessarily show that in this documentary. And she's incredibly nurturing to her trans children. And I found that amazing. I thought she was wonderful.
Yeah, you never get that impression that she is bitter and kind of dwells on the negativity that is thrown at her. You always feel that, I don't know, she's fighting through it, but she's doing it with such grace.
Yeah, and I think when she gets the opportunity to work on the Compton Cafeteria riots, which is a cornerstone of this documentary, she's just so thrilled, that someone is ready to listen to her story and her experiences. You know what I mean? Like, it's an opportunity. And I love that about her, She was still full of the joys of life, if you know what I mean. She's still quite glass half full, regardless of what may have happened over the last 40 or 50 years.
And they show in this documentary, that play coming together, and obviously the rehearsals, all the actors coming together, and they show the actual performance as well. And it was, greeted with applause all around.
It was lauded.
The critics loved it, and I really love that, because it's a real success story in a lot of ways. This documentary, it's very positive how it's actually coming across. The director, we have to say the director is Jay Bedwani. This is a really, like I say, it is a candid portrayal of someone, but it's really heartwarming. I came away from it afterwards feeling, I don't know, quite optimistic about life and about people and the human spirit, which I think is really important with something like this.
The Compton Cafeteria riots was put on at this place called Compton's, where that was, late night at Compton's, and it was 12 actors from our community telling the story, and they enact what happened that night in the 60s amongst a crowd of about 50 theatre goers and people in the bar. So it's happening around them, and it's kind of amazing, really, because they're at the site where this happened. It's site specific, and I think it's amazing that Compton's did this, and it's amazing that this story is being told.
So they acted out the scene where, in real life, what actually happened was the police were harassing these trans people, and a cup of coffee has got thrown in policeman's face. So they put all that in there, and obviously it's the story of how that night happened. Yeah, it did make me want to go back and kind of research that story, because I think a lot of people will know that, but they do say that it's an overlooked story, a very important story for LGBT, queer history. And it did make me want to actually research more about that.
No, I'm happy, as you mentioned, and thrilled that it got such, strong critical acclaim, because it's an important story within our community, and these stories need to be told, as we talk about a lot on this podcast. Maybe it is a podcast. On this
can be a
channel.
podcast.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot about, when we do a lot of the documentaries for Flair, it's about telling stories. We're a community that spent a lot of time not telling our stories, and our stories being erased. So it's important that these stories are surfaced. And so I'm thrilled that that's happened.
An interesting thing that we mentioned on the tube coming back from King's Arms as well was how she was reunited with her sister Gloria, and her family. I think it was her brother? Yeah, her brother Paul, I think his name was. Didn't want to see her, since she obviously went through the transition and was very, a very proud trans woman. But her family did have issues. Her sister Gloria, not so much. She did actually meet up with her, and there was a little bit of, misgendering going on there as well, where she was talking about her being him, and then she actually corrected herself during the filming and said he, she. And I said to you, I would have been offended by that if that was me, if I was Donna. But she seemed to be quite, I don't know, accepting of that, and obviously realising that there's a lot of history there, and that, they've obviously spent a long time knowing Donna before Donna transitioned.
Yeah, we talked about this. I feel that Donna approached it in a very sensible, pragmatic way, which was, she wanted to reconnect to her family, and she wanted to be her authentic self with her family. For her sister Gloria, yes, she did dead name her. Yes, she did use the wrong pronouns. But there's also history there that I think Donna can understand, which is, you haven't seen me as my authentic self. You only know me as Gustavo. And so it will take some time. And I think in that way, Donna's magnanimous and a very kind of like accepting that this is a journey also for Gloria. And I again, that's why I think she's such a wonderful human being, because she gets it. She's like, you only know me as Gustavo, and that's not me anymore, but I appreciate you don't see me, and so I forgive you, and let's work together, because what's important is family. Look, I'm not a trans person, but I have a huge amount of trans friends who understand that after a transition, there's a moment in time where people will slip up, but as long as they correct themselves and realise that's part of the re-education, and I think that's what Gloria does. So I'm not here to beat up on Gloria. Gloria's just working through an experience, and I really genuinely believe that Donna gets that.
Yeah, I loved this. I loved her, and I found her story fascinating. I also like the fact that it was like the beginning and the end of that, coming together of the play and producing that play and getting great reviews for it. And I just, like I say, I found it really heartwarming and a really engrossing watch. 4 stars for me.
Oh, amazing. I'm going to be less generous. So I'm going to say 3 stars, and I'll tell you why. Which is, I loved it. I feel sometimes if you throw too many things at a certain project, not all of them stick. And I feel like, actually, if you screw up a piece of paper that has the story of the Compton riots, and you screw up a piece of paper about connecting with your family, and you throw both bits of paper at once, generally people can only catch one. And so I feel like it tried to work really, really hard. And I don't necessarily feel that family story was worked through and resolved as much as I think I would have liked to. But I do feel that the Compton's Riots was. So, that's partly why I'm going to say it's a 3. I love her. I love the idea of what she stands for. I love the story of the Compton Riots. I do find the family angle a little bit unresolved to some extent, but I loved it as a documentary.
See, I know what you're saying, but for those reasons, I loved it, and that's why I liked it, because I wanted to know more. It's almost like they went into different subjects, and now, because it's not completed, it's almost like I want to find out more about the backstory and about the history, obviously, of the riots, and also her life as well. I didn't feel like I came away, having an ending to the story, but then I guess that's life, isn't it? Because life goes on, and there's going to be another part of that.
I'm not saying, oh, look, everything's resolved, because that's not how life works. But it was a narrative that was trying to be explored, that you either explore further or you don't, in my mind. And I think a lot of documentaries do this kind of spray, especially in the queer community, try and cover a lot of things. And actually, in a way, I appreciate what you're saying, but in my mind, there's a story to be told, and that was her experiences of being who she is and the Compton riots. And then there was this family angle that kind of didn't feel as resolved, and it isn't resolved because that's families, but it was one of those things where for me, it jarred slightly. And I've seen this in numerous queer documentaries where I don't know what it is, but there's this idea that you throw a load at it, you scoop loads of balls and you throw all of them, and hopefully someone catches one of them. But you are asking the viewer to do quite a lot, and that, I know views are my own, but that's how I kind of perceived it.
Interesting. Okay, so it's called Donna. It's released in UK and Irish cinemas on the 15th of July, and it is a running time of around 75 minutes, which I think is the perfect length for a documentary. I mean, sometimes it's worth having a longer documentary if it's a really interesting subject, and I think this was an interesting subject, but I think that's a nice length to get stuck into without outstaying its welcome.
Hey, listen, it's great, and I think you and I have slightly different views on it, but ultimately, watch this documentary. It's great. That's
why we do it, isn't it? That's why we do this, because we have got different views. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't, but we're very polite.
We're always polite.
So, question of the day then, Sean. Which documentary stayed with you after you've watched it?
Oh, I think some of the ones from the last round of Flair.
You're going to say, P.S. burn this letter, please. Yeah.
Do you know why I'm going to say that? They threw one ball of paper and they threw one ball of paper at you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
They don't try and they go, this is a story we're going to tell you, and it has a start, a middle, and an end, and it's perfect. And they don't go, oh, and by the way, there was another thing where we're going to try and tell you the story, so that they don't. They just keep you right on track around what they're going to tell you. They tell it's a queer documentary about a queer set of stories that sit within a lane and works perfectly.
Yeah, it was very focused, wasn't it? It knew what it was doing, I think.
Exactly. And I'm not saying Donna doesn't know what it's doing.
No.
But there is, I don't know, it's a confidence thing where you scroll up a second ball of paper and go, what if I just throw that one as well, just in case? And for me, that doesn't land. But views are entirely my own.
They are. Okay, so you can follow us on our socials. Facebook and Instagram, we're at Boys on Film LDN for London. And on Twitter, we love Twitter, don't we, Sean?
Love Twitter. Love it.
I love the fact that it's just a certain amount of space for words. You've got to really think about what you... Yeah.
Let's hope Elon Musk doesn't turn it into more of a hell site.
I know,
but for now, it's great.
Yeah.
Great for chats.
It's a temporary thing, maybe. But we're there at LDN Boys, so come and tweet us. We want some love. We want some adoration. Well, we don't just want that. We want conversation.
Oh, yeah, just all ego. Just tell us how great we are.
And on the screen now, by the way, that review, which is somewhere there of P.S. burn this letter, please, which is... in the middle of us, somewhere there. Just click on it.
It's great.
Watch it, love it. Get back to us on it. Yeah. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye now.